We move from there to the building, the site of that horror event that unfolded yesterday, the fire in which those 74 people perished, 12 of them children. Our reporter Nozintombi Miya is in Joburg CBD, and we cross back to her now. Nozintombi, of course, you'd indicated this building has now been cordoned off. People have been stopped, JMPD officers out in force to ensure that nobody goes through. But what are the latest developments on your side?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sakina. We are still standing in front of the building, and I'm going to move out of shot while we walk and we show you what it looks like. Now that the space has been cleared out, we can actually see what the building looks like. This Nozintombi building, it looks like on this side, which is, I think, the front part of the building. This looks like this is where most of the damage, the fire damage was. And you'll recall yesterday the firefighters had a huge ladder that went into, I think, probably the third or the fourth floor story building. And on the other side of that, you'll see that this is, I think, the side portion of the building. And this is where the reality of what happened becomes so grisly and so gruesome. You're actually starting to see the sheer utter amount of desperation that these residents dealt with and they faced as the fire consumed large parts of this area. You can see desperate residents threw out their bedding on the floor and took out sheets to try and assist each other get out of the burning building. I mean, half of the items are still there, they're still intact. And we do know that from yesterday, late yesterday, as soon as the police started walking out and moving out, residents here wanted to come back and collect some of their belongings. We will be speaking to some of these residents to ask them why they're still here. But what they explained to us is that they still have some of their documents in this portion, which I think is the back portion of the Nozintombi building. There was not a lot of fire damage, and some of the residents are saying that they wish that they could come in and try and get salvage whatever documents they can try and salvage inside this building. And I was speaking to one of the city officials here, and he was giving us such an interesting background about this building itself. So to recap about the number of fatalities, 40 of those people who died were men, 24 were female, and 10 were undetermined. But we know of the 10, it was 7 children. And what city officials are saying is that this building initially had been the original Lindela building during the time of apartheid. So this is a building that was initially built by Home Affairs. It was sort of like a Home Affairs department, and any foreign nationals that were coming into South Africa were brought here, and there was housing, temporary housing accommodation, and at the rooftop of the building itself there was a court, a temporary court where foreign nationals or asylum seekers were processed by the court orderlies or by the court to try and ascertain whether or not they can get some sort of foreign national status or whether they would be returned back. So it is so important to know the history of this building itself. And Sakina, as we wrap up again with that. You know, it is such an odd juxtaposition to see this blue tab here that verifies that this building itself is actually a heritage building. So that means that this building has been here for more than 50 years. And it's a building that should have been preserved. It was a building that was not preserved. And the city official authority is telling us that the reason why this building itself became derelict is that the building had been loaned out to provincial government by the city, and there was a problem between provincial government and the city, and this building became fallow. And with it being fallow and unoccupied, that's when it allowed the criminal elements to come in and illegally occupy. And this is where we are now, a heritage building that has years of history, left derelict, and 74 people died, more than 60 people having been injured, destitute people standing behind us, desperate to get inside this building to collect what little they can. It is a human tragedy, and accountability needs to be taken, and officials and authorities need to find permanent solutions to dealing with these kind of issues. Sakina.